Music therapy. First time I heard about the existence of music therapy, I remember just thinking, is it not all therapy? Anyway, that's what I'm going to be talking about and hopefully hearing from you about today. Welcome to Errogie Music Live. My name's Adam Sutherland. I'm a fiddle player from the south side of Loch Ness, and I'm here in this wee corner of the internet, broadcasting from my shed somewhere in Scotland, sharing all about my love of melody, Scottish traditional music melody, also Irish and every other culture in the world. And I hope to help you along your wee journey into maybe writing your own tunes, or maybe just appreciating existing melodies in a more nuanced way. Anyway, music therapy. I haven't studied music therapy like officially. You can go and study it, and it's a really beautiful profession. Music therapists do, as far as I can tell, really beautiful and important work. So I'm not speaking about this as a qualified music therapist at all. That's my little disclaimer. But I'm just going to speak about this as a kind of, I guess, I'm a professional musician, but I'm not a professional therapist. I'm going to speak about this from a kind of just my own little journey, my own little point of view. Music therapy, it's all therapy, was again what I thought when I first heard about the existence of music therapy. And it started becoming therapeutic for me as a teenager. What teenager is 100% happy with the world and unemotional? So I found that around about the time I started actively teaching myself how to play the fiddle, upon realizing I didn't have another fiddle lesson for a year because my annual trip to Alistair Fraser's Scottish fiddle camp on the Isle of Skye had just expired, and there wasn't going to be another camp for another year. Right about that time I started teaching myself to fiddle. I started stumbling across all sorts of things. Things is a terrible word. I started stumbling across all sorts of ways of playing the fiddle and ways of teaching myself, and just, I guess I had no agenda. And also because I was teaching myself and am teaching myself, I wasn't doing things in the kind of the way. I was just doing things in my own little way. Something I encourage everyone to do, whether you're getting lessons or not, is just to go on your mad wee journey. Anyway, when I was a teenager, I discovered this thing. It came about from trying to improve my tone on the fiddle, because I didn't have a fiddle lesson for a year, and I thought maybe I can be getting on with something until next year. And Alistair Fraser always taught and teaches to ask questions, and I guess it looks like he taught me well in that regard, because I started questioning absolutely every single thing that I thought, which is quite intense. If you've ever done that, really just every time you ever thought, why do I think that? And I basically dismantled, without setting out to, I ended up dismantling loads of previously held beliefs and convictions that I didn't even know that I had. And so here's what happened. I thought, I don't have a fiddle lesson for a year. Oh well, I'm not going to get any better. Question that. Why do I think I can't get any better? Answer. And you know when you have conversations with yourself, like two bits of yourself back and forward, like some mad brain tennis? I had this conversation. So, I can't get any better. Why do I think that? Because I don't have any more lessons for a year. Why do I think I can't get any better without lessons? What do you mean get better without lessons? You mean teach yourself? Yeah, why can't you work stuff out on your own? That's ridiculous. You can't just work stuff out on your own. Why do I think that? I don't know. I guess no one ever says in school and in life, no one says, oh, by the way, you can just teach yourself stuff. I don't call, and this again is no criticism of any of my teachers in school. I had some great teachers. There was just at no point was there ever any kind of message of, by the way, you could actually just be actively trying to suss stuff out on your own without waiting for us teachers to spoon feed everything to you. So back to this little conversation with myself. So why do I think I can't get better? Because I don't know. You learn stuff from teachers. They teach you stuff. You don't just do it on your own. Well, maybe we could try. That's mental. Anyway, I'll cut through all the kind of neurosis conversation I had with myself, but I ended up trying something that day, which was, I asked, what is it that Alistair Fraser, and you can tell he was a big influence on me. He's an incredible teacher, as is his brother Ian, actually, as well. Whole family, amazing teachers. I ended up thinking, what is it that Alistair is doing playing the fiddle that I'm not doing? We have both got arms and fingers, and what is he doing that I'm not doing? Which, looking back, was a good question. I had never asked that question before, and I just came up with this answer, which felt really naive at the time, but this was my answer. What is he doing that I'm not doing? He just sounds better. It just sounds good, which it did. So I felt, well, okay, why don't I just practice playing the fiddle, trying to sound better, try to make my tone sound better. I actually tried to sound like Alistair Fraser, which I did for quite a long time before realizing I couldn't sound like him. And also, you shouldn't try to sound completely like someone else. But I ended up making up this little game. I'm getting to the point here, 10 minutes in. I think I started just playing one note. I thought maybe I can make one note sound as good as Alistair Fraser. So I just thought, okay, let's just make one note. So I got my fiddle and I just started kind of just not even involving the left hand at all, just focusing on pulling the bow across the strings. And I realised that it didn't sound too bad, just one note. And I thought, I mean, that didn't sound too bad. I'm not going to say my tone was as good as Alistair Fraser, but I just realised that if you pull the bow across a string and it's fluid and calm, it does just sound not bad. Anyway, that's about fiddle technique. I won't go any more down that line because this channel is not really about teaching the fiddle. But I stumbled across something else. And I think some of the most interesting things that mankind have discovered, most interesting discoveries by woman as well, of course, have been discovered kind of like by accident. I'm not saying this is one of the best discoveries of mankind, but for me it was one of the best discoveries that I ever made for me on my little journey. And it was this, if you just play one note for ages, eventually, or rather quite quickly, you get bored of playing one note. And so because I set myself a challenge of just playing one note and not changing pitch, I had this inner conflict, which was the bit of me that was getting bored wanted to change to a new note, and the rest of me that was just saying no left hand, it's just tone, we're not doing uppy downy and pitch thing here at all, we're not doing that. There was this battle. So one part of me wanted to change note, the other part of me said no, and I kind of stumbled across this thing, which was kind of like, you can view it as a game, but I feel like it's a meditation, and it's this: play one note, and this is something I think you could do on most instruments. I guess singing you'll have to breathe now and again, but you could still just make yourself sing one note. Play one note for as long as you can. And I guess I was also kind of doing accidentally a little bit of mindfulness. I actually feel like I've always been quite, at times, able to observe my thoughts, other times not so much, because we all fall off that wagon, don't we? And get caught up with your feelings and stuff. But I was playing the fiddle, and I just noticed that I wanted to change note, and noticed that I was trying not to. Anyway, by just sticking with one note for ages and making myself not change, I created a kind of tension and conflict within myself. And the longer it went on, the longer I made myself not change note, the greater my frustration, almost anger, started to build. And the rest of me that was so used to just wandering around the fiddle playing whatever note I pleased was starting to get really quite stroppy. What the hell do you mean we're just playing one note? This is actually becoming kind of like torture. And the rest of me noticed how kind of upset I was getting and was tickled by that, and thought, okay, let's keep this going. How long can we just play one note for? What happens if I just deliberately infuriate myself and just stifle out all creativity? What happens? And that was the kind of forming of this thing. I suppose I feel like I should name it. This meditative thing, which I've done many, 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 many times. And just to summarize, it is start playing a note, play that note for as long as you can, observe your feelings, observe your thoughts. And anyone who's done any mindfulness before will know that it's kind of about that. And again, I'm not an expert on that. You observe, you become the observer of your emotions, you observer of your thoughts. I heard it described once in a great book. I think it was on Zen Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist and I'm not claiming to be Zen, but I read the book on it. And it was like, imagine you're sat in a theatre or a cinema, and your thoughts are like the characters that come on the stage and go off again, but you're not them, you're watching them. So it's like a gap between you and your thoughts, and a gap between you and your feelings. And I guess I was stumbling across that a bit as a teenager. So I would play this long note and observe and really feel all the creative impulses, and then ignore them and override them in favor of just playing this one note. And the more I ignored them, the more I listened to them but didn't do what they wanted, the more I became connected to what those impulses were. And I just kind of, eventually, the impulses got stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point where it was like my inner creative voice was just like screaming, and the rest of me was like really just enjoying how messed up this was making me. And eventually what happens every time is I break, and the creative voice shoves out of the driving seat the rest of me that's trying to just focus on one note, and the creative voice gets its way, and we change to a new note. But at that point, the rest of you elbows your creative voice back out of the driving seat again, and it's reset. New note, okay, you've had your way, we changed to a new note, now start again. You're now on a new note. And the frustration then returns very much again, even stronger, because it's like, what? We've just broken out that last prison of a note, and now you're back in prison. Yeah, back in prison, and I've got the keys. Reset, do it again. And that just keeps going, and eventually what typically happens is I just get, each time I change note, the amount of time between arriving on a note, battling with the jail keeper with the keys, and moving to a new note, each time is shorter and shorter. So I basically go from note to note to note more and more and more quickly. And I'm seeing some comments. I'll get to those in 1 second. I'll just finish up this description of what this is. What I've noticed is that there's this thing called musical intention. If you're not familiar with it, it's hard to describe, but it's like when you hear someone playing and you feel that there's huge intention behind each note they're playing. It's a beautiful thing. They're not playing passively. It's like all of them is invested in each note. That's what this brought out in me. When I change note, my full creative keeper, then when the notes come out, you end up going, and those notes quite often are the start of a new tune, and they're notes that I feel excited by, and they're full of intention, and also full of whatever else is going on in my head, because whilst I'm doing this, I'm also thinking about my life, and just maybe something's making you sad, or maybe something's making you happy, or maybe something's making you angry, or whatever you're feeling. It's a great way of essentially linking up whatever your emotional state is at the time with the sound you're making. And I know I said I was just finishing this up a minute ago, but I have just remembered the other side to this. It's like what you're doing is you're bridging the gap between stuff that's going on in your head, your thoughts, how you feel about that, and then the sound you're making. So your sound is the sound of your state of mind at that time. And that's what this does, is it links those two together. You really mean that sound. And that sound is really how you feel. So when I've ended up doing this and writing a tune, it's full of intention, it's full of my emotions at the time, and then I then write the tune in a state of probably quite high focus by this point as well. The end result is a tune which is, it's like a Polaroid snapshot of my kind of emotional state at the time. And after having done all that, I tend to feel great. Like I've just cleared out the tubes. It's a way of like something was emotionally tearing me up, and now that those emotions have gone, and in their place is a tune, and in my place in my mind is clear-headedness, emptiness, and that's it. Now I'm going to look at the comments now, but that's it. That's my meditation technique, and I would love to know if anyone would like to try that. Literally, the one note thing is a meditative thing. That's definitely not my idea. John Francis, hello. I'm not sure if we've had you in the chat before, John Francis. You are most welcome here. I bought my wife a hammered dulcimer and decided to learn the whistle to accompany her. Love Ross Ainsley and Ali Levac likewise. And find Scottish folk music interesting and different from Irish folk. That's cool. That's really interesting to hear. And just thank you for commenting. Curious how you define or delineate the two folk genres. You're studying the history of traditional Irish music right now, yet you're more excited to understand Scottish folk more and more. Come across the Scottish music. I'm not an expert in Scottish or Irish music. Yeah, I was going to say history, but I just don't feel like I'm an expert at all. The only thing I think I'm kind of qualified to speak about really is just my own experience of music. I'm not going to say I'm like a qualified to speak about the world's experience of these two genres. This topic might be addressed in a different video. Yeah, sure, we could try and look at that. I will say this on the two genres between Scottish and Irish music is, you often hear people talk about the differences, but as far as I can tell, there's way more in common between Scottish and Irish music than is different. I mean, we all play jigs, we all play reels, there's fiddles, there's pipes, there's drones, there's singing, there's Gaelic. There's more in common. Arguably, it's the same thing. Just, two different nation states. Arguably, it's the same thing. And actually, if you extrapolate that to the world stage, what are we doing in Ireland and Scotland? We're playing tunes, but what else is there? Other cultures and other parts of the world, everyone's playing tunes. My definition of traditional music is this, actually, just whilst we're on this. Love of a damn fine tune and or song. Tunes. I just like the whole tune playing world. To me seems to be one world with different pockets. Okay, Dream Angus, hello, welcome back. Sounds like releasing a blockage maybe, then opening up to creativity. Yeah, that's how it feels. It does feel like when it goes well, you're unblocked. I actually haven't done this for a long time. I don't know why. Maybe I need to do this again. But that's it. It's so music therapy I started speaking about at the start of this live stream 24 minutes ago. This is for me learning about music and writing music, and or just even delving into sound for me has had a therapeutic thing. I have ADHD, and apparently people with ADHD often have emotional dysregulation, it's called. I'm not totally comfortable saying that I feel things more strongly than other people, because I have no idea what it's like in anyone else's head, and I'm not going to sit and say, I just feel things more strongly than you. I don't feel comfortable with that. But I do occasionally get extremely emotional. I usually manage to keep it together in terms of like my behavior. I'm not like unstable, but in my own head I get like, well, really excited or really this or really that. But doing this, just to quote you again, Jim, I guess it clears it out. And I know I'm teaching about tune writing, but really if you come at this from not even trying to write a tune, you're not expecting to write a tune, you might end up writing one. In fact, I will just say this, when you're doing this, if you do this, don't expect a tune to come out. Don't like hope a tune comes out. It's just hard. You have to really just do it for the moment you're in, the sound, follow the sound. There's another way of describing this, which I've just remembered, which is it's almost like following an invisible thread. And that's what I mean. So you're playing a note and you're like, where do I feel the next note going? And if you don't feel anything, just stay on it for another half hour or whatever. But the more you do it, the more in tune you are with where you want to go. And that's what I think great writing and great music has, is this thing where it's like it's the player or the writer is really in touch with where you feel the music, where you feel it wants to go. And that's not, I talk a lot about on this channel about kind of left-brained cognitive ways of building tunes like architecture, but this is really about feeling, what do I feel this sound needs to go. That's what it helps with. And sometimes I'm really disconnected from sound, and this is a way of just bringing my kind of mind and body and soul and emotions back to just sound. And so the sound coming out is like exhaust fumes, and it's almost like, you ever go for get a massage, and the person doing it, if they're good, will find the knot, and you'll be like, oh my god, oh yeah, that's it, that's right there. It's kind of the soul equivalent of that. It's like, yeah, that's the sound that makes me feel better. That's what it's like for me. That sound makes me feel better. That's how I feel. That's it, and then you keep doing it until it's out. So that's the kind of therapeutic thing. I would love to know if there's any music therapists out there who could either confirm or non-confirm the fact that music therapy is often about getting patients to make the sound that makes them feel better. That's certainly been, for me, that's been the therapy, is this sound makes me feel better. Sometimes I get a tune out of it, and some of the tunes I've written that other people play have come from this, and I think it's come from this because I really meant it. I think Last Train from Lanark, one of my tunes that people seem to like more than others, that definitely came from this as a starting point. Couple more comments. I'm just going to say Michael Bishop, Scottish works best on a stage, Irish best in a pub. I am not going to be drawn into commenting either way on that. I'm going to take a sip of my unhealthy juice here, pardon me. However, you in the comments can say what you like. I have to say, Martin Hayes is pretty amazing in a concert. Anyway, hey Mark M. Hey everyone. So yeah, that's half an hour of me just outlining what this is. I've never done it really in front of people before. Should I try this just now? It's quite hard to kind of disengage from the fact that you guys are like listening. But maybe if I was doing this really faithfully, I would just be like, oh, I'd be playing and going, oh, I'm anxious, or I feel like people are watching me. What do those feelings sound like? You just play those. It's like playing how you feel. And it's something which is, it's easier to do this if you also practice scales and arpeggios, because then you've kind of got the tools to run about. Right, I feel like I'm going to just play something. That was a feeling that took over there, not a thought. Do you know what I feel like doing? I've been playing with this absolute beast of a mute. I bought 12 or 13 mutes. Why did I do that? Because I'm experimenting with recording, and I just thought, I've never really owned a mute. I want to just have as much data as possible on mutes. This is my current favorite. It's really heavy. It's made of, I don't know, it feels like iron or something. I quite like it on the fiddle. It sounds almost like an erhu. You know that, I think it's a Chinese instrument. I'm going to just do this thing which I like to do. So I'm going to put my tuner on my phone. That's also quite meditative for me. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Well done to anyone who sat through that. I think I found some notes I like. I quite like. That felt okay. Just those whittling away all the millions of mush and just kind of getting down to some singularity. That's what that felt like. Anyway, thank you for sticking with me, those who did, and fair play if you were like, I think I'm gonna head up at this point. Looking at some of the comments. Always record with a mute. Temptation to keep layering. Yeah. If you hear a sequence you like, do you stop to work on it? Yeah. I think you probably would have noticed that that's what was happening there. You find something that it's like you find something that you like, but also it's how you feel. It's like, yeah, that's what it's like. It's almost like you're trying to say something, but you don't quite know how to conjugate the sentence. You don't quite know how to, and then you finally find it. Go, yeah, that's what I was trying to say with feelings. And then usually you might have noticed there, when I find something that I like, I kind of just get stuck into it for a while and just refine it and then see where it goes. Yeah. Dream Angus, I don't know what those high frequency notes, low bow weight, long tones are called, but like they're kind of like harmonic-y stuff. If you kind of like, I guess kind of wispy bowing, you can kind of find other notes. I heard something. Not B flats. Oh no, I had something there. Handy been recording, and all that. I feel like, yeah, I think maybe I'm hearing a A part that's like down low, and a B part up high. Again, tried and tested thing in lots of tunes. I think I'm hearing the first part with more lots of like ba 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 da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba. But then the second part, like, just giving you some relief from the constant ba ba. And what I did, whatever the heck I did there, I think I liked. I might have to go back and listen to that. It's that the second part is more just and not having boo ba. I'm also aware that sounds like it might be verging into sounding like something something a bit sugar lifty, maybe. Like, belly dancer, says Michael Bishop. Yeah, it's similar notes. That has the B flats. I think I was kind of aware I was drifting into that. Oh, how'd it go? Forgotten. I also noticed that my tuning and tone out the window. Something has to go. You've only got so much CPU. I feel like there's a tune coming out there. Again, if it's too similar to something else or not, that's like usually a separate stage. Although sometimes you can nip it in the bud if you do notice in real time that does sound too much like the belly dancer, for example. But I feel like there's a tune there. Oh my goodness me. That's the neighbour's dog being let out. I don't think the neighbour's dog is particularly digging my fiddle playing. Maybe they're not enjoying any of it. Anyway, there we go. I think I'm going to play me just, I don't know, call it a day there. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I hope this hasn't just been too wildly self-indulgent. But I want to share this with you, not just so you can like watch me write a tune, so that you can hopefully try this. Go and make one note for absolutely ages, and just make your sound move to the next note when you feel like it, or even don't move to the next note when you feel like it and deliberately frustrate yourself. But try this. Link up your whatever's going on in your mind and your feelings, link them up with the sound you're making. It's about bridging that gap. If you get a tune out of it, fine, but like don't expect a tune or don't hope for a tune. It's almost just more about just the aim is not to write a tune, the aim is just to bridge, to make the sound that sounds like how you feel. That's it. I'll say that again. The aim is to make the sound that sounds like how you feel inside. That's the aim, and to strengthen that link. I almost wonder if there's some neuroscience here. You know how you can build bridges between different parts of your brain and different thought processes. Maybe it's like you're literally building something in your brain if you do this a lot, and maybe you're building a habit where you go, okay, I'm going to make the sound, and maybe the more you do it, the more quickly you get in touch with, you're making the sound, okay, how am I doing? How am I feeling today? What does that sound like? And it's not so much thinking what do I imagine it sound like, but what does it feel like? Getting in touch with your feelings. Okay, cool. So a couple more comments there. Dream Angus, a meditative idea with a fiddle idea is thought provoking. Well, hopefully that's true, and even feeling provoking. And Michael Bishop says brain work again. You mean like brain work again, or like brain work again? Um, like increasing bandwidth by meditating. Yeah, I think so. I think the more you do this, like the more you just will get into the habit of, okay, I'm gonna just make my sound. The great thing about it is if you don't expect anything, it's like if you expect things, that's when things get like more contrived, and that's like the ego. You just have to bypass the ego and just make sound. And if you don't feel anything, that's cool as well. Just like make sound and practice your tone. That's also fine. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap this up. So thank you all for coming along today. Thank you, Michael, John Francis, welcome. Thank you, Dream Angus, Michael Bishop, Mark M, and yeah, thank you all. And those of you not commenting, thank you as well for tuning in. I've had a few really nice comments from people in person, and also just privately just saying how much they enjoyed this, and that I really appreciate that. So from me, Adam Sutherland, in my little shed somewhere in Scotland, I'm going to say thank you all for tuning in, and if you're watching this in the future, I hope this has maybe been helpful for you somehow in the future. And yeah, like and subscribe. Come and find me on Patreon. You get more of my tunes and more stuff on my Patreon. That'd be really nice to see somebody's there. There's a free tier as well, which doesn't cost anything, so you're not like immediately in fact, you're just not ever going to have to pay anything for that. You can just literally just get a bit more stuff without ever paying a penny. But it'd just be nice to have a bit more personal connection. So yeah, thank you all for your support, and I will stop saying thank you all on loop, and I will just say thank you all, thank you all, and all the very, very best for this Sunday 8th of June Errogie Music Live podcast. So I will say